buge. Ye, diogo wadwaria, matwa ni wo buge. Yodo uhuru, yake idilie, na yetekela zika mluwabela buge.
Kama mkona siasa ya takataka ama tuereke mpeleke stadium. Sio kwa miradi ya nini? Kama sio miradi ya nini?
So that's part of the impact that the division within the Jubilee Party, Kieleweke versus Tanga is causing on the ground. We understand the stories is that the woman representative Rehab Mukami was not allowed to speak at the event because she's believed to belong or to side with the Tanga team. Gunjiro Mbogo is said to belong to the Kieleweke team. And you have heard him correctly or very clearly saying that he's one of those people that were assisted to go to Parliament by President Uhuru Kenyatta to go and represent him. Then Mwangi Kiunjuri, the CS, of course, was having that event to launch a water project or irrigation project. So one wonders what's happening to this country and especially the strongholds of the Jubilee Party. And I want us to look at that question. We're also introducing Mauka Mori, Member of Parliament for Igembe North constituency, Karibu Sana. Of course, we've been speaking with Eden Kenan, the Member of Parliament for Eldas, Senator Samson Cherige from Nandi, and Secretary General of ODM, Edwin Sifuna. So what do you make of that division that we see on the ground already creeping in strongholds of the Jubilee Party?
Well, what has happened is that the divisions within the party is at the top. At the top in the sense that you will find an MCA would go and be put on a national government project with the help of the women rep, and the local MP supposedly is not in good books with that wing of the government that is said to be bringing the project to the ground. And in the wing, as you've discussed before, about the splits in the cabinet, is explicit. Because a normal CS, what he would do is he would go to a constituency in a consultation with the local member of parliament. In this case, the 8 in the morning of that day is when the CS Kiunjuri was calling Honorable Wambogo to ask him whether he can or whether he is attending, and for good measure, Wambogo didn't pick the phone, and even if it were me, I wouldn't pick it, because it had been arranged with the other neighboring MPs to bring in a crowd to make the place look like somewhere in central Mount Kenya is deep into Tanga, because the CS wants to be a pillar of Tanga in the region, and that is what actually was coming out in the ground. When you talk of divisions, it is true that Kiunjuri and his politics and Mukami is Tanga. But Tanga means they are fighting the president. When he says he is supporting the handshake, when he says he wants to fight corruption, when he says he is on the Big Four agenda, they are into 2022 elections. And the president has been insisting on all of us. But we are not campaigning on our side for any candidate. We have not talked about any politics of 2022. We are saying we want to give the president a chance.
Which team do you belong to, first of all?
From my tone, you can tell I'm not a Tanga.
Which team do you belong to?
No. I'm in the president's team.
Kieleweke?
Something like that.
Something like that. And the question I want to ask you is, this is a cabinet secretary serving in President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President led cabinet, and he said clearly in the previous episode that we played, why would you members of the party now start to alienate him with your perception? Is it based on facts, or is it just political?
The CS. No, we have no problem with the CS. It is him who has a problem with himself. Because if he came to launch a project in my constituency from the national government, is not from the MCA or from Rehab Mukami. It is in Nyeri town. The MP for Nyeri town is Wambogo Njiri. So why is I delaying?
So, Senator, does this mean that politics and development in Kenya can't coexist? This is a classic example. A 262 million water project couldn't have been launched because of politics. A clear classic example of how politics and development in Kenya can't coexist.
You know, development and politics sometimes go hand in hand, because the reason the central people and Kenyans mostly voted for President Uhuru Kenyatta is because they wanted development. But it surprises my brother, who has made serious allegations, and he has said that they support the president. what we saw was undermining the president, because apparently Ngunjiri Wambugu was born and raised and managed by the ODM. So the signature of ODM has been violence.
But he's currently a member of parliament.
Of course, that's why I've said he was born and raised. Can I be heard?
When he finishes, I will respond.
In fact,
political or biological?
Politically, that is what I wanted to say. So what I'm saying is that the person you are dealing with here came from where he was being born and raised politically and mentored by ODM, which their signatures confusion, violence and disruption and chaotic. And that is what they did, because if the president's big four agenda, one of them is food security, Mwangi Kiunjuri was launching a very serious project. What I would have expected of Kutoeleweka team, they should have been, because this is a representative of the president, and they say Kutoeleweka, whichever they call themselves, Kitaeleweka, Kutoeleweka, whichever they call themselves, what they should have done, because the cabinet secretary is the representative of the president, he was launching one of the key enablers of the food security. What Ngunjiri Wambugu and Kutoeleweka brigade, because they are so emotive in fighting or perceived fighting the deputy president, they should have respected Mwangi Kiunjuri as the representative of the president and come silently to the function. If he would have wanted to organize a rally in Nyeri, he would have done it later or even the following day, because he's the MP of that day. You don't need to force yourself to the people. And what therefore happened there should be condemned. Can I finish so that you can respond?
Just a moment, in 10 seconds finish what you're saying.
What I'm saying is that as an MP of the area, you would have done even any meeting even the following day, or it didn't mean to interrupt the cabinet secretary who is a representative of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. That was an insult to the president.
All right.
I think there's something I've said that needs a response first. The first point, he says Wambugu Ngunjiri is mentored and DNA in the ODM. I have never heard of a pedestrian statement repeated in the media for 3 months like that one by these guys.
Thank you.
The reason being, if you go into the DNA of ODM and attach it to confusion and violence, 2007, who was the principal problem in violence in ODM, or who was part of the summit? Is William Ruto. William Ruto went to The Hague as a principal of ODM. He was in the summit. Wambugu was just a member in 2013. I was with him there myself. To be a member in ODM does not poison your DNA to a level of being created, born and bred in ODM. And when you are seen many years later is ODM, it is actually William Ruto who is the face of the ugly part of ODM, not us.
Can I do a rebuttal on that?
I never went to the Hague, or Wambugu never went to the Hague.
Do a rebuttal on that? Can I do a rebuttal on that?
Just hold on, Senator.
I will tell you the reason. No, I will tell you the reason.
Do you have any evidence to say what you just said about
you should have asked for
the
evidence.
deputy president, I'm telling you, he was in ODM summit in 2007 when there was a problem in ODM. When he left ODM, 2013, there was never violence anywhere in ODM or after elections. In 2017, there was nothing violence about ODM apart from the post-election temperatures. So we should leave ODM.
This is your deputy party leader.
I'm not saying, I'm saying what he has responded about ODM and Ngunjiri. And that's what they say about me and Ngunjiri. That's what I'm supposed to respond. It is pedestrian.
I just want to say that those are the views of
let's accept one thing. Honorable Ngunjiri is the elected member of parliament of people of Nyeri town. Period.
Not Ngunjiri.
And he must be respected. Civility in politics does not mean cowardice. For me, I'm one person and as a long-serving member of parliament. One thing that we must professionalize, we must respect the elected leaders of the people of Kenya. And therefore, it will have been incumbent upon CS Ngunjiri to liaise with the elected people of that particular constituency. And if there was a development agenda, and this takes me back to whether politics and development can coexist. They can coexist if there is civility, if there is appreciation in the planning of the development agenda. If your agenda is just to undermine the elected people, you can always do it.
Honorable Sifuna.
Just a minute. So that doesn't take away. And the CSs are expected to serve Kenyans of all shades, Kenyans without the day-to-day politics.
Discrimination.
And therefore, it is their responsibility. If they are going to a particular constituency, it's incumbent upon them to liaise and say, look, courtesy, I'm going to your constituency, can we plan this? but I don't expect a member of parliament to be a joyrider in the launching of in the launching of his own project in his own constituency. And two, I think let's get it right. I was an ODM member. That does not take my DNA to be an offspring of ODM. All of us are different types. So to that extent, I think that is not a very good statement. Today, my friend here is a Jubilee member. Tomorrow, God knows.
You'll be done.
Just a minute. That will not permanently replace the DNA of his parent. Really, let's also be very careful on the statement that you make. But finally, I think let's take this. The division in Jubilee, I'm a senior member of Jubilee, whether real or perceived. Remember, Jubilee is a movement.
Do you think it's real or perceived?
No, let me take this. Jubilee is a movement. You don't expect an ideological monologue actually in the way we think, the way we appreciate, the way this is a very diverse society. Yes. And remember, this is a country of regions, this is a country of tribes, and slowly we're trying to shed off this, but they still linger in our minds. They're still around villages, and therefore what you see might not be as, and I think I entirely agree with what Richard has said. As far as the grounds are concerned, Jubilee is one, Jubilee is united, and Jubilee is growing stronger.
Sifuna, before I come to you, could you confirm to us what the DP said yesterday, that the Jubilee Party is planning to meet so they can, their first meeting in a very long time to address issues? Is there a meeting? Will there be a Jubilee meeting?
Jubilee meets every day. We have every day we're in Parliament.
Well, not all Jubilee candidates feel the same way.
It's difficult to have a meeting of Jubilee everywhere. Jubilee exists. It's a movement.
All right.
It exists in the 47 counties of the Republic of Kenya, the 290 constituencies, the over 700. So to that extent, Jubilee is a movement, it's a grassroots movement.
Honorable Sifuna, let me rope you in. As the Secretary General of ODM, a very big party, from where you sit, the division of Jubilee Party, will that depend on development of Kenyans? Are we telling taxpayers development cannot happen because of the Jubilee division?
First of all, as ODM, we have a policy of non-interference with the internal workings of other political parties. We only hope that the same respect is extended to us, but of course it's asking too much given some of the, I don't want to say characters, the individuals that are involved on the other side. We will hold ourselves to a higher standard, even when my brother will not want to hold himself as a leader and as a young person who really doesn't need to come here to regurgitate stereotypes about what DNA constitutes other political parties. I want to remind him that in fact Uhuru Kenyatta, his president, is a founder member of ODM. ODM was born out of the 2005 referendum movement, for which the president was part. William Ruto, your teen god, was a key cog of ODM. And it surprises me that you only want to bring out people's ODM roots when the heat is on you. Because Ngunjiri Wambugu, his history is written. Once it's written, the ink is dry, it cannot change. Honorable Kenan, Honorable Maore, all these are members of ODM, and we are very proud that we are the party that produced all these people who are now in top leadership positions. But I want to go back to the issue of development and politics. First of all, for me, this issue of launching projects never makes sense. Because as taxpayers, when we are paying our taxes, like yesterday was a deadline for filing our tax returns, we don't call people and put ribbons on our purse strings and our purses and the wallets to launch our taxes when we are paying these taxes. So we expect that because we pay taxes, development must follow those taxes. And the problem in this country is that we have failed to professionalize our public service, so that our public service is always an extension of the ruling party. You will see a cabinet secretary, and this is the point that Honorable Maore was making, that if Kiunjuri went to launch a project as a public servant, devoid of political gimmicks and agenda, then he would not have a problem on the ground. But if you go there and you're hiding behind this launch of a project for you to be able to push forward your political agenda, it brings a problem. And this has been seen even from the top leadership of Jubilee. I remember a specific incident that I will never forget. Honorable William Ruto, one time in Trans Nzoia, he came there and he was launching projects in all of these other constituencies, and we have a constituency in Trans Nzoia called Saboti, and the member of parliament there is ODM. And he said, and the clips are there, that we will put TVETs in these other constituencies, lakini huko Saboti, until your member of parliament stops the tialala politics, they will not see any development.
Was that real or just a political undertone? I mean,
what do you mean? It came out of his mouth.
That's what I'm asking.
So that's what
it is the National Assembly that appropriates
you should
resources.
Exactly, but that's what I'm telling you. Unfortunately, for us, Kenyans do not understand, and it is because of the misleading statements from these leaders that it has somehow been painted that the only person who can bring you development is William Ruto. Even some of these members of parliament, for instance, in ODM, who have run afoul of the Political Parties Act and have been subject of disciplinary proceedings, when you ask them, what are you doing with this gentleman? Then they tell you, oh, I was only accompanying him for development. That should not be the case. You are a member of parliament, you are the person who appropriates money, you should be able to come and lobby in Nairobi, and once the matters have been provided for in parliament, you should be real with your people and say, this is the budget, unfortunately we didn't get road Y, but this financial year we were able to get a section of road X or a bridge or two schools.
And speaking of discipline, why are you removing Nanok as your vice chair?
The reason was very simple. I told you that we have a very heavy agenda as ODM. I'm surprised Honorable Kenan dodged your question on whether Jubilee meets, but he understood your question. Because an active political party...
I said Jubilee meets every day.
Let me just say this.
Yes, quickly.
An active political party is seen in the activities of its organs. Okay. We have said that we have a very heavy political agenda in the coming year. You know, we have scheduled grassroots elections. We feel that at this particular point in time, we need all the leaders in the organs of a party, the leadership of a party, to be hands-on. So if you are slackening and you are leaving the other people to carry your burden, we feel that there is a gap there that needs to be filled so that we can better undertake our duties.
We'll look for time to talk about that, but before we proceed on, of course, you've been saying quite a few things on Twitter as well as on SMS. Do you have some feedback to take a look at? And that is on this is on Twitter. Engineer Lazaro, Ruto assassination claim shouldn't be a national subject when Ruto himself is non-committed and yet to record any statement to the DCI office. Let's treat it as attention-seeking statement. All right, still sticking to Twitter, hashtag Daybreak is your ticket into the conversation. Sadika, you say CS Kinjiri invited this upon himself. The Constitution forbids CSS to engage in matters politics. He was just suffering the outcome. Okay. Who else? This is still on Twitter. The hashtag to use is Daybreak. Francis Kigondu. Ruto has failed this country by putting us on permanent campaign mode. He miscalculated because too much politics usually fractures the country. Mount Kenya, which he had in the bag, is now in tatters. He should have concentrated on his job and promoted peace. I really don't know whether it's true. He had it in the bag 3 years to the election. All right. Still on SMS? On SMS 22422 Omondi, you say William Ruto is looking for an escape route from Jubilee. Assassinations are planned discreetly and executed publicly. They can be planned by 40 people. I always believe that Ruto does not want to be the president of Kenya, because if he did, he would have resigned respectfully and stopped destabilizing the government from within. All right, the last SMS on what you've been writing to us on 22422. Sir Nixon Tugire from Kindaruma. It's really sad how the letter has made divisions among many Kenyans, and I highly hope there'll be an apology after a conclusive report. Also, my take, all kiosks should be closed forthwith. That is Tangatanga kiosk, Eleweke kiosk, Embrace kiosk, and any other to that effect. Quite some views there from the viewers texting us on 2242. Of course, you can join the conversation by doing the same, or tweeting us at Citizen TV Kenya, at Zinzi_K, at Sam Gituku. The hashtag to use is Daybreak. We want to take a break, but when we come back, we'll be looking at what some leaders are talking about in as far as the future of the politics of this country. Some are saying there needs to be a referendum, so we'll be looking at that, whether it will be the solution to the challenges the country faces politically. Back in a moment.